My name is Emes, 29 years old, and this was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. After years of grinding as a software engineer, I finally bought my dream house and invited my entire family for a housewarming. I waited for hours, but no one showed up. As I scrolled through social media, my heart sank. Everyone was at my brother Garrett's new apartment celebration instead. Then, as I turned on the lights in my empty living room, my phone exploded with a message from my mom. "We need to talk, now." Before I begin my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear more stories about family drama and personal growth. I grew up in a middle-class family in suburban Chicago. Our neighborhood was nice enough with tree-lined streets and decent schools, but nothing fancy. My parents, Richard and Julia, worked hard to provide for my younger brother Garrett and me. Dad was an accountant at a mid-sized firm, and Mom taught second grade at the local elementary school. We never wanted for necessities, but luxuries were carefully budgeted. From the beginning, it was clear that Garrett was the golden child. 3 years younger than me, he was everything I wasn't: athletic, outgoing, and effortlessly popular. While I was the quiet kid who spent hours taking apart computers in the basement, Garrett was the star quarterback who brought home trophies and had a new girlfriend every month. Don't get me wrong, Garrett wasn't a bad kid. He was charismatic and could charm anyone with his easy smile and confident demeanor. But beneath that charm was a deep irresponsibility that our parents seemed blind to. He would forget chores, miss curfews, and talk his way out of consequences with creative excuses that my parents always accepted. Meanwhile, I was held to a different standard. One tardy homework assignment would result in a lecture about responsibility and potential. My early interest in computers was treated as a quirky hobby at best. When I joined the coding club in high school, my achievements went largely unacknowledged. I still remember winning the state programming competition junior year. The event was held on a Saturday morning, the same time as one of Garrett's regular season football games. I stood on stage receiving my trophy, scanning the audience for my parents' faces, only to find my Aunt Meredith, who had come in their place. "They're really sorry, honey," she explained later, "but you know how important these games are for Garrett's college prospects." College marked another stark contrast in our treatment. I was accepted to Northwestern University for computer science, a proud moment quickly dampened by my parents' sticker shock at the tuition. "We'll help where we can," they said, "but you'll need to take out loans and work part-time." I ended up working 3 part-time jobs while maintaining a 4-point GPA. Meanwhile, Garrett got a football scholarship to Illinois State. When his grades slipped and he lost the scholarship after freshman year, my parents dipped into their retirement savings to keep him in school. "He needs the college experience," they justified. "He's finding himself." I graduated with honors and minimal ceremony. My parents attended graduation but left early to drive to Garrett's end-of-year party 3 hours away. I tried not to take it personally. Instead, I channeled my energy into my career, landing a job at a prestigious tech company in Chicago. Over the next 5 years, I climbed the corporate ladder while Garrett bounced between jobs: bartender, personal trainer, sales rep for a supplement company. Each new position was announced with enthusiasm by my parents. "This is the one that will stick." None did. Often, these job changes coincided with moves back to our parents' house, where he would stay rent-free until he got back on his feet. Through it all, I lived modestly. I shared an apartment with 2 roommates, despite my increasing salary. I drove the same used Honda I'd bought in college. Every bonus and raise went straight to savings, while I watched online real estate listings grow more competitive by the month. My dream was simple but specific: a craftsman-style home in a quiet neighborhood with enough room for a home office, and maybe someday a family of my own. A place that was truly mine, that reflected my values and hard work. A home that would serve as the backdrop for new traditions and gatherings. After nearly 6 years of saving, I had enough for a substantial down payment. The housing market in Chicago was brutal, but I was patient. For months, I scoured listings, attended open houses, and endured bidding wars. Nothing felt right until I found it: a 1920s craftsman with original woodwork, updated systems, and a backyard with mature oak trees. It was perfect. The day I first toured my dream house remains vivid in my memory. It was a crisp Saturday in October, leaves crunching under my feet as I walked up the stone path to the front porch. The real estate agent, Barbara, met me with a warm smile and a folder of property details. "This just hit the market yesterday," she said. "I thought of you immediately." From the moment I stepped inside, I knew this was it. Sunlight streamed through original stained glass windows, casting colorful patterns across hardwood floors. The living room featured a stone fireplace with a hand-carved mantel. The kitchen had been tastefully modernized, while preserving vintage touches like the built-in breakfast nook. Upstairs, 3 bedrooms offered plenty of space, including a perfect corner room for my home office, with views of the backyard. The asking price was at the upper limit of my budget, but after years of disciplined saving, I could make it work. I submitted an offer that same day slightly above, asking with a heartfelt letter to the owners about why this house meant so much to me. 2 anxious days later, Barbara called with the news: my offer had been accepted. The closing process was a whirlwind of paperwork inspections and minor negotiations. Throughout it all, I shared my excitement with my family in our group chat. My parents responded with thumbs-up emojis and occasional "that's nice, honey" messages. Garrett didn't respond at all. Still, I remained hopeful that once they saw the house, they would understand what this milestone meant to me. The day I signed the final papers and received the keys was emotional. Barbara snapped a photo of me standing proudly on the front steps, keys in hand. "Congratulations, homeowner," she said. I walked through each empty room that evening, planning furniture arrangements and color schemes. This was more than a purchase. It was the physical manifestation of years of hard work and sacrifice. Over the next 3 weeks, I threw myself into making the house a home. I painted the walls in warm, inviting colors. I splurged on a comfortable sectional sofa for the living room and a solid oak dining table that seated 8. I hung artwork that I'd collected over the years, but had kept in storage while living with roommates. Each addition made the space more mine. With the house coming together, I decided it was time to plan the housewarming party. I wanted my family to be the first to see my new home, to share in this achievement before I invited friends and colleagues. I created a digital invitation with photos of the house and details for a Saturday afternoon gathering 3 weeks away. "Come celebrate with me," I wrote. "Food and drinks provided. No gifts necessary. Your presence is all I want." I sent the invitation to my parents, Garrett, both sets of grandparents, my 3 aunts and their families, and my 2 cousins who lived in the Chicago area. I followed up with personal text messages to each of them, emphasizing how much their attendance would mean to me. The responses trickled in over the next few days. My maternal grandparents regretfully declined due to my grandfather's health issues, but promised to visit soon. Everyone else responded positively. "Wouldn't miss it," texted my Aunt Meredith. "So proud of you," wrote my paternal grandmother. My parents confirmed they would drive up from the suburbs. "We're bringing your favorite childhood dessert," my mom added. Garrett was the only one who didn't respond at first. After 5 days of silence, I sent him another message. "Hey, not sure if you saw my invitation. Would love to have you at the housewarming. Let me know if you can make it," he replied an hour later. "Might stop by if I'm not busy. Congrats, I guess." A week later, my mom called. "I was thinking," she said, "since Garrett hasn't confirmed for your party, why don't we just pick him up on our way? That way he'll definitely come." I hesitated. Garrett and I weren't close, and his lukewarm response hadn't exactly made me eager to ensure his attendance. But I wanted family harmony. "Sure," I said finally. "That would be fine." "Great, he's been staying with us again since his roommate situation didn't work out. Did he tell you he's looking at apartments? He's really getting his life together this time." I murmured something supportive, though I'd heard this narrative many times before. The conversation shifted to party planning, and I listened as my mother suggested food options that Garrett would enjoy despite my menu already being planned. As the party approached, I threw myself into preparations. I ordered catering from an upscale local deli, a spread of gourmet sandwiches, artisanal cheeses, and fresh fruit. I stocked the bar with my father's favorite whiskey, my mother's preferred wine, and an assortment of craft beers and non-alcoholic options. I even remembered that my cousin Lisa was gluten-free and made sure there were appropriate options for her. The morning before the party, I made a final trip to the florist for fresh arrangements that would brighten each room. I carefully arranged them throughout the house, placing the largest bouquet on the dining table as a centerpiece. Everything was perfect, ready for the celebration I had been imagining for years. I woke up on the day of the housewarming with a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. Sunlight streamed through my bedroom window, and I allowed myself a moment to appreciate that I was waking up in my own home in a bed I had chosen in a room I had painted myself. This sense of ownership still felt novel and precious. The party was scheduled to start at 3 in the afternoon, giving me ample time for final preparations. After a quick breakfast, I did one last cleaning sweep through the house, though it was already immaculate. I arranged the furniture to create conversational groupings, set up a drink station in the dining room, and prepared space in the kitchen for the catered food delivery scheduled for 2:30. At noon, I received a text from my mother. "We're leaving in about an hour. Looking forward to seeing your new place. Dad and I are bringing Garrett as discussed." I replied with a thumbs up emoji and a reminder of the address, though I had already sent detailed directions twice before. My Aunt Meredith texted next. "Hitting the road now with Uncle Paul and the kids. Can't wait to see this dream house of yours." My cousin Lisa confirmed she and her husband would be arriving around 3:15. Even my father's brother, Uncle Stephen, who rarely attended family functions, sent a message that he was planning to make an appearance. Everything was falling into place, and I felt a surge of validation. Finally, my family would see what I had accomplished through years of hard work and saving. This wasn't just about showing off a house. It was about being recognized and celebrated for once, instead of standing in Garrett's shadow. The caterers arrived precisely on time, setting up an elegant spread on my kitchen island. I tipped them generously, feeling a flash of pride at being able to do so. Once they departed, I took one final look around. Fresh flowers brightened every room. Music played softly through the speakers I had installed, and afternoon light cast a warm glow across the hardwood floors. It was perfect. 3 o'clock came and went. I checked my phone. No messages explaining any delays. By 3:20, I sent a group text. "Food and drinks are ready. Looking forward to seeing everyone soon." A few minutes later, my mother replied, "Running a bit behind. Start without us." By 4 o'clock, not a single guest had arrived. I paced from the front window to the dining room, checking my watch compulsively. This didn't make sense. Even accounting for traffic or minor delays, someone should have arrived by now. At 4:30, I called my mother. The call went to voicemail. I tried my father with the same result. I texted Aunt Meredith. "Are you close? Everything okay?" Her response came 10 minutes later. "So sorry for the delay. We'll be at the party soon." Something about her wording struck me as odd. Not "we'll be at your house soon," but "at the party." I checked the location she had shared with me earlier through our family tracking app. She was nowhere near my neighborhood. In fact, she was across town. With growing unease, I opened Instagram. My cousin Lisa's most recent story, posted 15 minutes ago, showed a living room I didn't recognize, filled with familiar faces, my parents smiling widely, Uncle Stephen chatting with Aunt Meredith, and in the center of it all, Garrett raising a beer and toast, a set of keys dangling from his other hand. The caption read, "Celebrating G's new bachelor pad." My stomach clenched. I scrolled through more recent posts. There was my father, arm around Garrett's shoulders, proud of this guy taking a big step. Another from my younger cousin, party time at Uncle Garrett's new place. With shaking hands, I called Lisa. She picked up on the fourth ring, music and laughter audible in the background. "Hello," she shouted over the noise. "Lisa, it's Emmys. Where are you right now?" A pause. "Oh, Emas, hi." Her voice became muffled as though she had covered the phone. When she returned, her tone was awkwardly bright. We're at Garrett's new apartment, for his apartment warming. Didn't you know?" "No," I said flatly. "I didn't know. I'm actually hosting my housewarming party right now, the one I invited everyone to weeks ago." Another pause, longer this time. "Oh my God, Emma's, was that today? I'm so sorry, I got confused with the dates. Garrett just decided yesterday to have this thing, and everyone was already planning to come to your area, so." "My area? My house is nowhere near Garrett's apartment." I could hear my voice rising and took a deep breath. "Lisa, were you planning to come to my housewarming at all today?" "Of course," she said quickly. "We were going to stop by after this. It's just that Garrett really needed the family support right now, you know. He's finally getting his life together, and your parents thought it would be good to encourage him. You're already so successful and established, and Garrett needs the extra push. I ended the call, unable to listen anymore. With a hollow feeling in my chest, I opened our family group chat and scrolled back to find an exchange I hadn't been included in. Garrett had sent a message yesterday. "Hey family, got approved for an awesome apartment today, last minute availability. Having some people over tomorrow at 3 to check it out. Parents already coming. Anyone else around?" Everyone had responded enthusiastically. No one had mentioned my event scheduled for the exact same time. I walked slowly through my empty house, turning on lights as the afternoon sun began to fade. The food sat untouched on the kitchen counter. The carefully selected wines remained uncorked. The flowers, which had seemed so vibrant hours ago, now appeared garish against the quiet emptiness. As I turned on the last light in the living room, my phone buzzed with a new message. From my mother, "We need to talk. Now." I stared at my mother's text message for a long moment, a storm of emotions raging inside me. Anger, hurt, betrayal. They all competed for dominance as I stood alone in my perfectly prepared home with no one to share it with. My thumb hovered over the screen, tempted to type something scathing in response. Instead, I set the phone down without replying and sank onto my new sofa. The silence in the house was deafening. This wasn't how today was supposed to go. This was supposed to be a day of celebration, of acknowledgement, of finally stepping out of Garrett's shadow and into my own light. Instead, I had been relegated once again to an afterthought, my achievement deemed less important than Garrett's latest whim. Unable to resist, I picked up my phone again and continued scrolling through social media posts about Garrett's impromptu gathering. Each image was like a knife twist. There was my entire extended family crowded into what appeared to be a fairly standard apartment with rental-grade finishes and minimal furnishings. Nothing like the carefully restored historic home I had saved years for. My cousin Derek had posted a video tour narrated by an enthusiastic Garrett. "And this is the living room, perfect for game days. Bedrooms through there, king-size bed already delivered. Kitchen's small, but who cooks anyway, right?" The comments section was filled with family praise. "Such a great space. Perfect bachelor pad. So proud of you taking this step." My father had commented, "Big moment for my boy." I switched to the family group chat I hadn't been included in. The conversation revealed that Garrett had only viewed the apartment yesterday morning, signed the lease immediately, and spontaneously decided to host a gathering. No planning, no preparation, just a last-minute text. And everyone had dropped everything to be there, including abandoning their commitments to me. The most painful discovery came from a screenshot someone had shared of my parents' conversation with the landlord. "We'll cover the security deposit and first 3 months," my father had written. "Just don't mention it to Garrett. We want him to feel independent." So Garrett hadn't even secured this apartment on his own. He was being subsidized yet again while I had scrimped and saved for years to afford my home on my own terms. The injustice of it burned like acid. I tried calling my parents again, but still no answer. Finally, I called my Aunt Meredith, who had always been slightly more understanding of my position in the family. She answered on the second ring, her voice hushed. "Emies, I can't really talk right now." "Then just listen," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I want to understand what happened today. Everyone confirmed they were coming to my housewarming, an event I planned weeks ago. Then Garrett decides yesterday to have people over, and suddenly my event doesn't matter." Aunt Meredith sighed. "It's complicated, honey. Your brother, he made it sound like an emergency. Said he finally had a breakthrough and needed family support right away. You know how he can be." "And what about my breakthrough? What about my support? You're different, Ems. You've always been so independent, so capable. Garrett needs more guidance, more encouragement. So being responsible and self-sufficient means I deserve less family support, less celebration, less love." My voice cracked on the last word. "Of course not," she said quickly. "It's just that your parents feel Garrett is at a critical juncture. He's struggled so much and they think this apartment is a sign he's finally maturing. They didn't want to dilute that momentum." By coming to my housewarming, the home I saved for 6 years to buy, that would dilute his momentum. Aunt Meredith's voice dropped even lower. Your mother suggested stopping by your place after Garrett's gathering, but he got upset. Said if people left his party early to go to yours, it would make him feel second best. Your parents didn't want to trigger his insecurities. I laughed bitterly. Heaven forbid Garrett feel insecure. Meanwhile, I'm standing alone in a house full of food and flowers looking like an idiot. I'm sorry, Emmys. I should have stood up more. We all should have. In the background, I heard my mother's voice calling for Meredith. I have to go, she said hastily. Your parents were talking about coming over later. Just try to be understanding. Okay. After hanging up, I wandered through each room of my empty house, turning on every light, as if illuminating the space could somehow fill the void left by my family's absence. In the dining room, I stared at the untouched charcuterie board. In the living room, the carefully arranged furniture waited for guests who never arrived. Upstairs, in what would be my home office, I had set up a small display of my professional achievements, framed certificates, a published article, a photo of me with my team after a successful product launch, achievements that apparently weren't worth my family's time to acknowledge. I returned downstairs and was contemplating whether to start packing up the food when my phone lit up again. This time it was an Instagram notification. Garrett had tagged me in a post. With a sense of dread, I opened the app. The photo showed Garrett standing in his new kitchen raising a beer bottle. The caption read, "New beginnings. Sorry, Emma's Carter couldn't make it to the celebration. Next time, bro." I hadn't been invited. He was publicly pretending I had chosen not to come rather than acknowledging that he had hijacked my event and stolen my family's attention on my special day. The calculated nature of this move struck me as particularly cruel. As I sat processing this latest insult, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my parents standing on the porch with Garrett slouched behind them looking at his phone. It was nearly 8 o'clock, 5 hours after my party was supposed to begin. I opened the door but didn't invite them in immediately. "Well, look who finally remembered I exist," I said, unable to keep the bitterness from my voice. My mother stepped forward with an artificial brightness. "Eames, honey, we're so sorry about the mix-up today. Can we come in? Your house looks lovely from the outside." I stepped aside wordlessly, allowing my parents and Garrett to enter. My mother made a show of looking around with exaggerated appreciation. "Oh, Eames, this is just beautiful. Look at these original hardwood floors, Richard, and that stained glass. They don't make craftsmanship like this anymore." My father nodded hands in his pockets, offering a perfunctory, "Nice place, son. Real solid investment." Garrett trailed behind them, barely glancing at his surroundings, still scrolling through his phone. When he did look up, it was with a dismissive shrug. "It's cool, I guess. Kind of old-fashioned, though, isn't it? My place has smart technology built in. Your place that Mom and Dad are paying for." The words escaped before I could stop them. An awkward silence fell. My mother recovered first, her laugh brittle. "Let's not start with negativity, Ems. We're here now, and we want to see everything. Give us the tour." I remained rooted to the spot. "Why are you here exactly? The party ended hours ago. The party none of you bothered to attend despite confirming weeks in advance." My father cleared his throat uncomfortably. There was a misunderstanding with the scheduling. These things happen. No need to make a federal case out of it. "A misunderstanding," I repeated incredulously. "You all RSVP'd to my event. Then Garrett decided yesterday to have people over and suddenly everyone forgot about my housewarming. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a choice." My mother's smile faltered. "Honey, you have to understand. Garrett needed our support today. This apartment is a big step for him. And buying a house wasn't a big step for me. Something I worked and saved for years to achieve without anyone's help." "That's different," my father interjected. "You've always been the responsible one. You don't need the same kind of encouragement Garrett does. He's still finding his way." Garrett smirked, though he quickly composed his face when my mother glanced his way. "Yeah, bro. Not everyone can be perfect like you. Some of us are still figuring things out." "At 32, I challenged. You've been figuring things out for over a decade while I've been working 60-hour weeks and living with roommates to save money." My mother stepped between us physically and metaphorically. "Emmes, please. Your brother is making real progress now. This apartment is just the beginning. He's interviewing for a new sales position next week that has real potential." "Let me guess," I said flatly. "Dad put in a word with someone from his golf club." My father flushed. "Networking is part of life, Emmes. I would have done the same for you if you'd asked. I never asked because I wanted to earn things on my own merit. Something you've never expected from Garrett." Garrett's facade of indifference cracked. "Oh, here we go with the golden child complex again. It's not my fault you've got a chip on your shoulder the size of Lake Michigan." "A chip on my shoulder? Are you serious? Mom and Dad missed my college graduation ceremony to attend your frat party. They've missed every significant event in my life while dropping everything for your most trivial needs. And now they're literally paying for your apartment while pretending it's some great achievement on your part." The room fell silent. My parents exchanged uncomfortable glances. "How did you know about that?" my father finally asked. "I saw the screenshots in the family chat. The one I wasn't included in, by the way. I know you're covering his security deposit and first 3 months' rent. Probably his furniture too, given that he couldn't hold a job long enough to save for it." My mother wrung her hands. "Eames, you have to understand. Your brother doesn't have what you have. Because he hasn't worked for it, and he never will. As long as you keep bailing him out and treating his minimum efforts like major accomplishments." "That's enough," my father said sharply. "We came here to smooth things over, not to be attacked." "Smooth things over? You ruined what should have been one of the proudest days of my life. I spent weeks planning that party. I catered food for 15 people. I bought my dad's favorite whiskey and Mom's favorite wine. I made sure there were gluten-free options for Lisa. And none of you could be bothered to even text me that you weren't coming until hours after you were supposed to be here. We got caught up in the excitement at Garrett's," my mother admitted weakly. "Time just got away from us." "Right," I said bitterly, "because Garrett's last-minute apartment viewing was so much more exciting than the home I spent 6 years saving for." Throughout this exchange, I noticed Garrett's demeanor shifting. When our parents were looking, he maintained an expression of wounded innocence. But when their attention was elsewhere, I caught glimpses of something else. Smugness, even triumph. He was enjoying this. "You know what Garrett said, affecting a conciliatory tone, I didn't realize my little get-together would conflict with your thing. Maybe we can reschedule your housewarming for next weekend. I'm pretty busy with apartment setup and job interviews, but I could probably spare an hour or two." The condescension in his voice was the final straw. 29 years of swallowed resentment of being overlooked and undervalued, while Garrett was coddled and praised for minimal effort, came boiling to the surface. "There won't be a rescheduled housewarming," I said, my voice steady despite the emotion churning inside me. "At least not one you're invited to. I'm done pretending this is a functional family dynamic. I'm done being the responsible one who gets taken for granted while Garrett gets celebrated for basic adult behavior." "Emmes," my mother gasped. "You don't mean that. We're family. Family should support each other equally. Family should acknowledge achievements. Family shouldn't consistently favor one child over another for decades." "We don't favor Garrett," my father protested, but his voice lacked conviction. "Really? When's the last time you dropped everything to attend? Something important to me. When have you ever put my needs above Garrett's? Can you name a single instance?" The silence that followed was damning. "That's what I thought," I said quietly. "Here's what's going to happen now. You 3 are going to leave. I'm going to reevaluate what kind of relationship I want with people who have consistently shown me I'm an afterthought. If and when I decide I want you in my life again, it will be on my terms with clear boundaries and expectations of mutual respect." Garrett scoffed. "Dramatic much. It was just a party, bro." I turned to him directly. "It wasn't just a party, and you know it. This was calculated. You've always needed to be the center of attention, and you couldn't stand the thought of the family celebrating me for once. So you manufactured an emergency life event and manipulated everyone into prioritizing you. Again." For a brief moment, Garrett's mask slipped completely, and I saw raw anger flash across his features before he composed himself. "Whatever helps you sleep at night," he muttered. My father stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. "Now you listen here, Eames. You can't speak to your brother that way. And you can't cut your family off over a misunderstanding about a party. What will people think?" "I don't care what people think anymore, Dad. I care about being respected. I care about being valued. And clearly those aren't things I can expect from this family." "If that's how you feel," my father said stiffly, "maybe we should go." "I think that's best." My mother began to cry. "Please, Emma, don't do this. We can work this out." "Maybe someday," I said, softening slightly at her tears despite myself. "But not tonight. Tonight I need you to leave." As they filed toward the door, Garrett paused and leaned in, speaking low enough that our parents couldn't hear. "You'll cave first," he said confidently. "You always do. And when you come crawling back, begging to be part of the family again, I'll be sure to remind everyone how you overreacted and ruined my big day." I met his gaze steadily. "Enjoy your subsidized apartment, Garrett. I'll be here in the home I earned, living my life on my own terms. Let's see which one of us is happier in the long run." I closed the door behind them, the sound echoing through my empty house. For the first time that day, the silence felt right, necessary, the beginning of something new. The days following the confrontation with my family were eerily quiet. My phone, usually buzzing with messages from the family group chat, remained silent. No calls from my mother checking in. No forwarded jokes from my father. No random requests for tech help from extended family members. It was as though I had suddenly ceased to exist in their world, a feeling both painful and strangely liberating. I took a week off work to process what had happened and settle into my new home properly. Each morning I woke up and reminded myself that this house was a testament to my hard work and discipline. No one could take that away from me, even if they had tainted the celebration of it. By the third day, the silence from my immediate family was broken by a text from Aunt Meredith. "Thinking of you. Call when you're ready." I appreciated her reaching out but wasn't ready to engage yet. I needed time to sort through my feelings before I could have rational conversations about what had transpired. Instead, I reached out to a therapist my colleague had recommended months ago. Dr. Andrea Winters had an opening that week, and I found myself sitting in her comfortable office, pouring out 29 years of family dynamics in a 90-minute session. "What you're describing is a classic golden child divided by scapegoat dynamic," she explained after listening intently. "It's common in families, but that doesn't make it any less damaging. The overlooked child often develops a strong sense of self-reliance, but can struggle with feelings of worthiness and belonging." "That's exactly it," I admitted. "I've always felt like I had to earn love that Garrett gets unconditionally." Over the next few weeks, these therapy sessions became an anchor as I navigated my new reality. Dr. Winters helped me see that setting boundaries wasn't selfish, it was necessary for my emotional health. We worked on strategies for establishing healthier relationships moving forward, including with family members if and when I chose to reconnect. Meanwhile, my colleagues at work had noticed something was off. When my team lead, Marcus, asked if everything was okay, I found myself sharing a condensed version of what had happened. His response surprised me. "That's awful, Eames. Listen, we were going to take you out for drinks to celebrate the new house anyway. What if we turn it into a proper housewarming instead? Nothing fancy, just the team showing up to celebrate your achievement." Before I could protest, the plan was in motion. That Saturday, 10 colleagues arrived at my door with bottles of wine, homemade dishes, and small housewarming gifts. They filled my home with genuine laughter and warmth, admiring each room and asking thoughtful questions about my renovation plans. Marcus's wife, Sarah, who worked in interior design, brought a beautiful hand-painted ceramic bowl for my coffee table. "Every home needs something unique," she said, something with a story. As we gathered around my dining table, sharing food and stories, I realized something profound: family isn't just about blood. These people who celebrated my achievement without comparison or condition were showing me what genuine support looked like. The following week brought an unexpected development. A package arrived via courier. No return address, just my name and new address carefully printed on the label. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, was a collection of items from my childhood home. a framed photo of me at my high school graduation, an old science fair medal I'd won in 6th grade, a small wooden box I had made in woodshop class. Beneath these items was a handwritten note from my paternal grandmother. "These belong in your new home. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to celebrate with you. Your grandfather and I are so proud of the man you've become. Love transcends disagreements. Call me when you're ready." I sat on my living room floor, surrounded by these fragments of my past, and wept, not from sadness, but from the realization that not everyone in my family saw me as an afterthought. Some had been watching, noticing, valuing me all along, even if they hadn't always known how to show it against the backdrop of family dynamics. Over the following weeks, I began reaching out to extended family members individually. I called my grandmother first, thanking her for the package, and having a long, honest conversation about family patterns that had gone unaddressed for too long. "Your grandfather and I always saw it," she admitted. "We should have said something sooner." Conversations with my aunts, uncles, and cousins followed. Some were defensive of my parents and Garrett initially, but many admitted they had observed the imbalance in how I was treated. "We just didn't know how to intervene," my Aunt Meredith confessed. "Family systems are complicated." These conversations were sometimes uncomfortable but ultimately healing. I wasn't asking them to choose sides, but simply to acknowledge my experience and consider more balanced ways of engaging as a family moving forward. Meanwhile, my home was becoming a true sanctuary. I joined a local homeowners association and connected with neighbors who shared tips on maintaining historic homes. I planted a small vegetable garden in the backyard, installed bookshelves in the living room, and set up a proper home office where I could occasionally work remotely. Each addition made the space more mine, a physical manifestation of the independent life I was building. The silence from my immediate family stretched into weeks, then months. Through therapy, I came to understand that this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The space allowed me to strengthen my sense of self outside the role I had always played in my family system. I focused on nurturing relationships that were reciprocal and affirming spending time with colleagues who became friends and reconnecting with old acquaintances who lived nearby. Then, nearly 3 months after our confrontation, I received a text message from an unexpected source, Garrett. "My lease is up for renewal. Parents said I need to start paying my own rent. Can we talk?" I didn't respond immediately. Dr. Winters and I discussed the message in our next session. "What do you want from a relationship with your brother?" she asked. "Not what you think you should want, but what would actually be healthy for you." After careful consideration, I replied with a simple invitation to meet at a neutral coffee shop. When the day arrived, I was surprised to find Garrett already waiting, looking uncharacteristically disheveled. The confidence and charm that usually radiated from him were dimmed. "Parents cut me off," he said without preamble as I sat down. "Said it was time I stood on my own 2 feet. Apparently that conversation with you really shook them up." "I'm sorry if things are difficult," I said carefully, "but I'm not sorry for speaking the truth." Garrett stared into his coffee cup. "I always thought you had it easy. The smart one, the responsible one, the one who never seemed to struggle with anything." He looked up, meeting my eyes. "I never realized you were working that hard, saving for so long for your house. I guess I just assumed things came easily to you." "Nothing has ever come easily to me, Garrett. That's the point you and Mom and Dad could never seem to grasp." A long silence stretched between us. Finally, Garrett spoke again. "I lost the apartment. Couldn't afford it once Mom and Dad stopped paying. I'm staying on a friend's couch until I figure something out." "What about that sales job Dad lined up?" Garrett's laugh was hollow. "Turns out you actually have to show up consistently to keep a job." "Who knew?" He hesitated. "I'm thinking of going back to school. Community college business administration. Something practical." "That sounds like a good plan," I said genuinely. "Yeah, well, had to grow up sometime, right?" He fidgeted with his napkin. "Listen, I know I was a jerk. About the housewarming, about a lot of things. I'm not good at not being the center of attention. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was more self-awareness than I'd ever heard from my brother. Thank you for acknowledging that," I said simply. "So, are we good?" he asked with a shadow of his old easy charm. "Not yet," I replied honestly. "But maybe we can start working in that direction." 2 weeks later, my parents reached out asking if they could visit. I agreed, setting clear parameters. A short visit focused on honest conversation rather than pretending nothing had happened. When they arrived, I was surprised to see them looking older, more uncertain than I remembered. "We've been doing some reflection," my mother said once we were seated in the living room. "And some counseling," she added almost reluctantly. "Your confrontation forced us to look at patterns we didn't want to acknowledge," my father continued. "The way we've enabled Garrett at your expense. The way we've taken your responsibility and independence for granted, instead of celebrating it. We're trying to do better," my mother added. "With both of you. Setting healthier boundaries with Garrett hasn't been easy, but it was necessary. And we want to truly see you, Eames. Truly celebrate your accomplishments and support your journey." I didn't rush to forgiveness or promises of resumed closeness. Instead, I thanked them for their reflection and suggested we take small steps toward rebuilding trust. A monthly dinner, perhaps. Open communication about expectations. Family therapy sessions if they were willing. As fall turned to winter, these tentative steps toward reconciliation continued. Some conversations were difficult old patterns, threatening to reassert themselves. But there was a new awareness on all sides, a commitment to doing things differently that gave me cautious hope. The first holiday season in my new home became a test of these evolving relationships. Rather than subjecting myself to the traditional family gathering at my parents' house with its potential for old dynamics to resurface, I decided to host a different kind of celebration. I invited a mix of people who had supported me through this journey. Friends from work, neighbors I had grown close to, extended family members with whom I had rebuilt individual relationships, and yes, my parents and Garrett, under the clear understanding that this was my home and my gathering. To my surprise and relief, the evening unfolded with genuine warmth. My mother brought her famous apple pie without trying to take over the kitchen. My father admired the improvements I had made to the house without backhanded comments about the expense. Garrett, now enrolled in community college and working part-time at a local bookstore, engaged respectfully with my friends and even helped with cleanup afterward. As everyone departed with hugs and promises to gather again, soon I stood on my front porch watching taillights disappear down the street, a profound sense of peace settling over me. This house, once a symbol of achievement I feared would go unrecognized, had become something more valuable, the foundation for a new way of being, both with myself and with others. 6 months after the disastrous housewarming that never happened, my house had transformed from an empty shell into a genuine home. The living room, once staged for a party that never occurred, now bore the comfortable imprints of real life. Books spilled from the shelves I had built along one wall. A hand-knotted rug from a weekend trip to a local artisan market added warmth to the hardwood floors. Photos were displayed not just of family but of the broader circle of connections I had cultivated. Hiking trips with colleagues, dinner parties with neighbors, volunteer days with my community garden group. Therapy with Dr. Winters continued, though we had reduced the frequency to twice monthly. These sessions became less about crisis management and more about ongoing personal growth. "What I noticed," she remarked during one session, "is how much more comfortable you seem in your own authority. You're no longer seeking external validation for your choices." She was right. The painful rupture with my family had forced me to find validation from within, to trust my own perceptions and values in a way I never had before. This internal anchoring made all my relationships healthier. I was choosing connections based on mutual respect rather than desperate attempts to prove my worth. My relationship with my parents had stabilized into something cautiously positive. We maintained clear boundaries. I visited them once a month for dinner, and they respected my space and independence in between. My father had taken up woodworking and crafted a beautiful coffee table for my living room, perhaps his way of acknowledging my home in a tangible form. My mother called weekly, and our conversations felt more authentic than they had in years. Garrett was the most surprising development in this family evolution. Without our parents' constant financial safety net, he had stumbled initially but eventually found his footing. He completed his first semester at community college with solid grades and moved from his friend's couch to a modest studio apartment he could actually afford on his bookstore salary. Our relationship was tentative but improving. We met occasionally for coffee or a meal, carefully avoiding the competitive dynamic that had defined our interactions for decades. During one such meeting, Garrett confessed something unexpected. "I was jealous of you," he said, stirring his coffee absently. "Not of your success exactly, but of your certainty. You always knew what you wanted and worked toward it systematically. I've been bouncing around like a pinball, waiting for something to click. I think I envied your ease," I admitted in return. "Everything seemed to come naturally to you. Friends, charm, athletic ability. All the things our parents visibly valued." These honest exchanges didn't erase the past, but they created possibility for a different kind of brotherhood moving forward, one based on adult understanding rather than childhood rivalry. The extended family had largely realigned as well. After initial awkwardness, most relatives had made efforts to connect with me individually, independent of larger family gatherings. My grandmother in particular had become a regular visitor, often bringing plants from my garden or recipe cards from her collection. "I always saw myself in you," she told me during one visit, "the quiet one who notices everything but doesn't always speak up." Perhaps the most profound change was in how I approached holidays and celebrations. Rather than trying to fit myself into traditional family gatherings that often left me feeling overlooked, I began creating new traditions that reflected my values. For Thanksgiving, I hosted a Friendsgiving that included colleagues, neighbors, and friends who couldn't travel home. For Christmas, I volunteered at a local shelter before joining a smaller family dinner on my own terms. My home became the setting for these new traditions. I hosted monthly dinner parties where conversations ranged from books to politics to personal growth. I turned the spare bedroom into a guest room that was frequently occupied by visiting friends. The backyard, once empty save for a few old oak trees, now featured raised garden beds that provided vegetables for these gatherings. Work life flourished alongside these personal developments. The boundaries I had established in my personal relationships extended to my professional ones as well. I became more selective about which projects I took on, more vocal about my contributions, more confident in negotiating for what I deserved. This resulted in a promotion to senior developer and the opportunity to lead a team on a major new initiative. One rainy Saturday, about 6 months after the confrontation, I received an unexpected text from Garrett. "Found some old family photos while cleaning out my storage unit. Thought you might want some for your house. Okay to drop by tomorrow." When he arrived the next day, he was carrying a shoebox filled with family photographs spanning decades. We sat at my dining table sorting through them, reminiscing and occasionally laughing at forgotten moments. Near the bottom of the box was a photo I had never seen before, me at about 7 years old, intensely focused on building something with a computer kit, while Garrett, around 4, watched with undisguised admiration. "I used to think you were the smartest person in the world," he said quietly, looking at the photo. "I wanted to be just like you, but I couldn't figure out how your brain worked. It was easier to go the other direction, you know. If I couldn't be the smart one, I'd be the fun one, the athletic one, the popular one." "I had no idea," I admitted. "I always thought you looked down on my interests." "Nah, man. I was intimidated by them." He handed me the photo. "This one should definitely go on your wall." That night after Garrett left, I framed the photograph and hung it in my home office, not as a symbol of reconciliation necessarily, but as a reminder of the complexity of relationships, the way perspectives can differ so dramatically, and the possibility of seeing old patterns through fresh eyes. As spring arrived, bringing new growth to my garden and fresh light through my windows, I found myself reflecting on the journey of the past year. The house that had once represented a personal achievement to be validated by others had become something far more significant, a physical manifestation of my values, boundaries, and authentic connections. The failed housewarming that had caused such pain now seemed like a necessary catalyst, forcing issues to the surface that had simmered beneath family dynamics for decades. The confrontation that followed had been painful but ultimately freeing, allowing everyone involved to examine and adjust patterns that weren't serving any of us well. My therapist had once asked me to consider what home truly meant to me. At the time, I had given a superficial answer about safety and comfort. Now I understood it was much more. Home was the space where I could be fully myself without contortion or apology. It was built not just of wood and stone but of boundaries, self-respect, and connections that honored rather than diminished my worth. One evening, as I sat on my back porch watching fireflies illuminate the garden I had planted with my own hands, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Your father and I were thinking of stopping by this weekend if you're free. He finished another woodworking project he wants to show you." I typed back, "Sunday afternoon works. Looking forward to it." And I realized with quiet amazement that I genuinely was looking forward to it. Not with the anxious hope for validation that would have colored such a visit in the past, but with the calm assurance of someone who knows their worth, isn't dependent on others' recognition. The house around me, once just a structure I had saved for and purchased, had become a true home, filled with memories I had chosen, to create relationships I had intentionally nurtured, and a peace that came from living authentically. The journey hadn't been what I expected, but it had led exactly where I needed to go. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who consistently overlooked your accomplishments? How did you find the courage to establish boundaries with loved ones? Share your experiences in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you. Remember, building a life that honors your true self is the most important home you'll ever create. Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and growth.